It's very, very important that we do that. An attorney walking away, sometimes it's because they don't get the lead chair or one of the lead chairs. Sometimes it's because a client is lying. Sometimes it's because they believe wholeheartedly that the client is going to be guilty and they don't want to be associated with that guilt because that's a loss on their record. It could be a variety of things. But the fact that we are speculating about that when the trial date hasn't even started yet concerns me because I'm one of those people, ladies and gentlemen, who firmly believes it's virtually impossible to find a jury that's not contaminated by some kind of information that's been put out to the public before a trial begins. I'm not one of those that believes that. May 5th is May 5th. I mean, come on now. That's more than 2 months away. Jury ain't been selected yet. You trying to tell me nobody that's on the jury will have heard that a lawyer backed out of the case? I don't know about y'all.
The storm surrounding Diddy just got a whole lot worse. As the music mogul's federal case continues to make headlines, his legal team has fired back with an explosive claim, accusing the prosecutors of racism and bias. They're saying that the charges against him are rooted in jealousy of his success as a black artist. But that's not the only bombshell. Diddy is now facing a $100 million lawsuit from NBC, and things aren't looking good. Is this the beginning of the end for Diddy?
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Sean Diddy Combs wants one of the counts in his federal superseding indictment thrown out. Combs argues he's basically being singled out by federal prosecutors because of his race and his success in business. The charge he wants the judge to toss is count 3. Black men have largely been prosecuted using the Mann Act over the years, Combs' attorneys write. This case is unprecedented in many ways, but perhaps most notably and most disturbingly, no white person has ever been the target of a remotely similar prosecution. They go on to argue that the sex acts that Combs engaged in with the victims and the sex workers was completely consensual.
Let's dive into the shocking allegations. Diddy's legal team is arguing that the charges against him, especially one involving human trafficking and prostitution, are racially motivated. Their motion claims that this particular law has been used against black men for years, while white individuals committing similar offenses go unpunished. It's a bold defense, but will it hold up?
I think it has to be the defense, the consent, because look, sometimes you can argue that the sex activity never happened, right? It wasn't me defense. But this is not your typical sexual assault case. There are a lot of people there, right? There are people that are arranging the sex workers. There are people that are setting up lights and cameras, booking hotel rooms. Obviously, Diddy has a large entourage. So there's a lot of witnesses there. And a lot of this was allegedly recorded.
Federal prosecutors, however, are firing back. They're not buying the racial argument and insist Diddy is not a victim. He's the abuser. They accuse him of using his wealth and power to manipulate and coerce women into sex acts, some of which were allegedly filmed for his personal enjoyment. The prosecutors aren't pulling any punches, claiming Diddy ran a criminal operation involving trafficking, racketeering, and abuse over multiple years.
So I think it's going to be very difficult to argue that it wasn't me. So you have to argue that it was consensual. And we've talked about the line that separates trafficking from consensual sex, that force, fraud, or coercion. So I fully expect the defense to be, this was all consensual. These are all people who are trying to shake Diddy down for money. This is all extortion. That's why they're pursuing these claims. They're just piling on. But really, this is regret, not rape. And I think that's the defense strategy in this case.
We spoke to several industry insiders, including former associates who have worked closely with Diddy. They all agree. The man who built Bad Boy Records is now facing his biggest battle. Former employees recall working in an environment where control was everything. One ex-staffer told us he had this way of making everyone do what he wanted. It wasn't just business, it was personal. And when it came to his personal life, he had no boundaries.
Let's get a little more specific here, because what makes up the racketeering conspiracy charge, the sex trafficking charge, the prostitution charge? Well, the allegation is that Combs engaged in a pattern of abusing women, verbally, emotionally, physically, sexually, for years. And that included transporting women and commercial sex workers and coercing and forcing women to participate in sex for his own desire, that he would use drugs or threats or power to get them to do this, to get them to do what he wanted. And how did he carry all this out?
Diddy's defense strategy is clear: deny the allegations and claim that everything was consensual. With tapes showing the alleged abuse, though, it's tough to deny what's on record. This is not your typical sexual assault case. There are multiple witnesses and a large entourage that was reportedly involved in organizing these events. Diddy's legal team is trying to push the narrative that the accusations are part of an extortion scheme, but the evidence stacked against him is massive. However, what's even more
The government here explains that count 3, the count at issue, that transporting of people for purposes of prostitution, is exactly what makes up the core of this case.
He's doing fine. It's a difficult circumstance. He's making the best of the situation. This is a serious proceeding with serious consequences, and all of us are addressing it accordingly.
I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. He has been ready to defend this case since he first found out about this case. Nothing has changed from his perspective.
shocking is what's happening behind the scenes. Just when you thought it couldn't get more dramatic, one of Diddy's top lawyers, Anthony Rico, drops a bombshell of his own. Just months before trial, he walks away from the case, leaving Diddy scrambling. Why? Insider sources say Rico had seen the evidence and realized the case was unwinnable. This shocking exit could be the tipping point in Diddy's defense.
But I find that that's not a good thing for Sean Diddy Combs.
That being said, kind of going back to what potentially the reasoning might be, do you think that it might have been a personal conflict between Diddy and Anthony Rico, or do you think it might have been Anthony Rico with other counsel? But what do you make of all of that?
Potentially, it could be a conflict with the client, right? A disagreement. They just don't get along. The communication is poor. They don't agree on defense strategy. Be conflict with one of the other lawyers. Obviously, seems like Agnifilo is the lead on this case, although Rico was certainly.
If his own legal team is losing faith, what does that say about his chances? We reached out to a legal expert who told us, when a lawyer this high profile exits a case, it speaks volumes. There's a lot we don't know yet, but it's clear that there's a shift happening within Diddy's camp. This isn't just about disagreeing over defense strategy. This is a big red flag, but the drama doesn't end there. Prosecutors are now accusing.
They're going to want female lawyers on the defense team, especially during some of the aggressive cross-examination. That tends to be the conventional wisdom when you're dealing with victims who are alleged victims of assault or abuse. And then it could be a conflict with one of the victims themselves. Maybe Agnifilo, maybe Rico consulted with them or even represented them in such a way that he has to get off the case. So
Diddy of trying to tamper with the witnesses who are against him. From behind bars, he allegedly used a network of inmates' phone accounts to contact people on his approved list, trying to influence potential jurors and witnesses. He even reportedly enlisted his family to push a social media campaign, painting himself as the victim. In a twist straight out of a crime thriller, Diddy allegedly attempted to reach out to a woman involved in one of the lawsuits against him. This attempt to
Called the other group member Gunn 58 times trying to get her to stop the lawsuit against Diddy.
She ain't the only one he was trying to get in contact with. You understand? He sent somebody through somebody else to try to get in contact with me, telling me enough is enough. Oh, okay. You tell Big Mama that enough is enough. You can't tell Wolf Mama enough is enough. You tell D. Ferg Mama enough is enough.
It's a dormitory Puff Daddy's in. He's not in cells. So there's a big dorm with a bunch of bunks, and then there's a little room where you go into, and it's like a workout area. But it's not really a yard, you would say. It's just like with gates, like you see right there in the building. And you could literally lay down, and the females are right below you, and you could just yell at them, and they yell back, and basically like you could kind of see them and they could see you a little bit, but you have to watch out for the guards, obviously. But you can talk with them and, show each other some things sometimes, which I never did any of that.